Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I usually do a reading vlog once a year, so I guess this is my 2020 reading vlog installment. This weekend is a long weekend in Ontario and a number of other provinces and territories. It's the civic holiday long weekend, so I have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off, and I decided that I'm going to tackle something that I said I was going to do when I first hauled these books back in October of last year. It was in the fall. I had gone to a library book sale with two friends, and we had decided that at the sale we were gonna pick paperbacks and just give them to the other people and say, here, your challenge is to read these in the next year. I imagine I'm probably the only one who's actually going to do it. But I thought it might be kind of fun because they don't have YouTube channels and I do, so I can at least vlog it and kind of make it a fun experience. The two books that I am planning on reading this weekend, the first one isn't too weird, but it is called Mew for Murder, which is kind of a cutesy name. It's by Clea Simon. It's a Theta Krakow mystery. It sounds like it's gonna be Crazy Cat Lady inspired, so we'll see how this one goes. The one that's gonna be very interesting is Track the 99 by Jerry Ahern. This is going to be the most testosterone-filled book I have ever read. I don't know if I'm supposed to take this book seriously or not. I think it was published in the 80s. Did people take this seriously? He says, Dan Track, he's our main character, learned how to fight by growing up orphaned amongst Southside Chicago gangs. He has a genius-level IQ and a brawny mastery of survival. Now he's chasing after a zealot who is trying to set off bombs, so Track is trying to dismantle these bombs or stop them from going off before we get into nuclear hell, I guess. This sounds like the kind of book where I will not be able to keep myself from rolling my eyes, and there's probably going to be some sexist stuff in it, but we'll see. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? I've already been to the store, so I've stocked up on some of my key snacks that I've been enjoying right now so I can munch on them when reading. And also I got a bottle of white wine because usually I'm a red wine person like 90% of the time, but it's been so hot lately that I've just really been craving some white wine. So I went to the LCBO for the first time since before COVID started. So the real question is, which one do I start with? I feel like part of me wants to ease myself in with Muse for Murder because it won't be as insane, but also this is going to be such a ride that maybe we should just start it now, and then if I don't like it, or if it's like too much for me, I can at least start Muse for Murder and sort of intersperse them a bit so I don't get just completely engulfed in the testosterone-ness that is this one. I'd just like you all to know that I haven't even gotten to the actual story yet, but on the first page there's a thing that says Meet Dan Track. My favorite part is, at a well-muscled 6 feet with brown hair and steely gray blue eyes, women find Track attractive, find his presence magnetic. But when he's not in the arms of a sexy arms dealer named Desiree Goth, Track prefers the solitude of his place in New Mexico, where he can pull his thoughts together, test some guns, and prepare himself for what always lies ahead. This is what lies ahead for me right here. Yeah, this sounds like it might be a love letter to guns, because I've read the first page and a little bit, and he's already talked about different guns like 3 times. Alright, so I have finished the prologue of this book. The prologue is over 30 pages long, but it gives you a good idea of what you're getting yourself into. So I think this book is aimed at people that like guns and books that have the potential for a lot of like bloody battles. The prologue was Track and this arms dealer Desiree Goth going into the North African desert Track was there unwillingly. He was sort of a prisoner of Desiree's, and she was going there to sell some weapons to a terrorist, and the whole thing goes wrong. There's a group that's pretending to be the terrorist group, and then there's the actual terrorist group, and then they're kind of caught in the middle, and there was a lot of descriptions of different guns, him talking about unloading the guns, checking to see if there's actual bullets in there because they're taking like enemy guns as well. So that's who this book is for. So that part of it I'm gonna like glaze over a lot because I know nothing about guns. I've never cared about them. As far as the characters, Track is definitely like this manly, you know, dude like you would expect. It opens with him and Desiree like waking up the next morning after having sex and kind of making like coy, sexy jokes to each other before he was trying to get her, and then she was trying to get him secretly, and then she ended up actually getting him, like winning their little battle. So it opened with, you know, sexy times basically, which is exactly what I would have expected. And then, yeah, there's been guns and some semi-detailed descriptions of people dying after being like cut with a sword or shot with a gun. Yeah. That's where we're at right now. I'm glad I have 3 days to read this because I wouldn't want to read all 220 pages of this in one day. And I mean, I do have the other book to help space things out, but I want to make a bit more progress in this before I switch over to that one. I am now 50 pages in, and we've had our first moment of just blatant transphobia, homophobia. Most of the stuff so far, it's been more eye rolls than anything, but this is the first time I've been like, oh God. So we are now 3 years from the last part that I was talking about. We've been introduced to our bad guy briefly, but we're back with Track. And Track is in London. He's educating some London policemen about different types of guns, and they get called away to a situation that's happening at a department store. The IRA has taken hostages, and they claim to have a bomb, and they have certain demands, basically. So Track is there with the head guy, the top dog guy, whose name is Hall, is on the phone with the IRA, finding out what they want. And he then turns to the group afterwards and says, they claim to have a bomb and 82 hostages, women mostly, some children. He then laughs and says, they have a gay up there. I believe that's what you Americans call them. Hall then turns to Track and says, he was trying to buy a brassiere for himself, apparently. Like, why the fuck is that even in there? There's no reason for that commentary to be in this. It has no impact on anything. You could have just said, oh, there's a man up there. Like, a man can be in the same section where ladies' undergarments are sold. What if he's there with his wife? Or what if he's there to buy himself a bra? It doesn't matter. Anyway, continuing on. I've now changed locations, and I'm obviously outside, so I apologize if the wind gets a little noisy. I'll try to keep it down when I'm editing. But I have a wrapped up Track for the moment. I've read about a third of the book, and I officially put it as I was reading it on Goodreads. I had to put a little disclaimer being like, yeah, it's for a video, it's a challenge. I did not decide to pick this book up all on my own, because I would never have picked that book up all on my own. I've officially cracked open the wine. This was definitely a go through the aisles and see what labels look pretty. So I have it in this little thing to hopefully keep it cooler a bit longer. And I have paired it with some color goldfish because I like to keep things classy. Now we're on to Mu is for Murder. I feel like this is going to be a very different vibe from Track. Verdict on the wine is it's good. I like it. It's kind of exactly what I was looking for. Not too sweet. Cheers. I am now 22 pages in, and my initial thoughts are, if you're going to read this book, you should probably like cats.
It's been a little bit. I've refilled my wine glass and finished it off, and it's now hit a little after 5 o'clock, so I feel like I'm probably going to eat dinner soon. But I have read 49 pages in Mew is for Murder. This is definitely what I would classify as a cozy murder mystery. Theta Krakow is our main character, and she is a journalist. And she comes across this nice Victorian house one day, and there's an elderly woman living there with a bunch of cats. And Theta, who is a cat person, wants to do a story on this woman, and then also maybe talk about like hoarding and taking care of animals, kill shelters, that kind of stuff. Basically a whole story centered around cats and this elderly woman who is taking care of a bunch of cats. And she goes back the next day to talk to her, and the woman is dead. And initially, the police don't think it's suspicious because she's an elderly woman, and they say she probably fell over one of her cats. But this young person who's like probably in her early 20s, who's been checking in on the elderly woman like twice a week, says no. Lillian was too with it. She wouldn't have fallen over one of her cats. She had one of those medic alert bracelets, and she didn't use it. She had a wound on the back of her head, and Theta was already kind of suspicious as well, so it sounds like the two of them are going to team up to figure out who killed Lillian. The initial suspect is the real estate lady neighbor who never liked Lillian because her cats were always strolling the neighborhood and causing mischief. But I imagine it's probably not going to be her, because that would be too obvious. At this point, I'm probably going to pause reading. I won't say I'm done for the day. I might read a little bit more of this, but that's the beauty of having a 3-day weekend and reading 2 books that are on the shorter side. This one is 250 pages, and Track is like 220 pages, so pretty manageable, so I don't have to like push myself too hard. I may even end up watching a movie after dinner. We'll see. So I had some dinner, had a pork burger, watched some Survivor with my boyfriend, and now it's time for a movie. I haven't completely decided what I'm going to watch yet, and I also haven't decided what I'm going to have for dessert. So I've already opened this, and it's delicious. I love when Ben & Jerry's is on sale. But I think I'm going to go for the minis, because I haven't had these in a long time. Good morning, everyone. My initial plans when I woke up this morning was to go for a run, but it was raining when I woke up, and it's been alternating between just regular rain and raining buckets, so I've decided not to do that. Maybe I'll do it later if the weather gets better, but if not, I will definitely try and run tomorrow. I'm currently doing this thing called Run Vermont, where even though I'm not there, I'm trying to run a particular distance with my sister and some friends, so I'm like trying to push myself to run more than usual. I have until September 7th to run 126 miles, and I am currently slightly more than halfway done, so I need to really start picking up the pace if I want to finish in time, because if you finish, then you get like a cool t-shirt, like a nice running t-shirt. So yeah, I enjoy running, but I'm definitely the kind of person that needs a goal when running. Like earlier this year, I ran my first 10K. I'd initially signed up for an actual race, and then it got canceled because of COVID, so you were allowed to just like virtually enter your time and run it on your own, which is what I did. And then I realized after that was over that it's really good for me to have a goal if I want to actually keep running and sort of pushing myself. So as far as other stuff I have going on today besides reading, I do have a Zoom meeting at 1:30. I volunteer for the local Humane Society, and I'm actually fostering a rabbit right now. Her name is Denver, and she has a potential adopter. So because of all the restrictions that we have going on right now, I am having like a Zoom info meeting, I guess, or a meet and greet with the person who is potentially adopting her. And so gonna, tell her what I know. I've had Denver for like over a month now that I've been watching her. So I know a bit of stuff, so I can kind of fill the potential adopter in and, show her Denver in the house. In addition to that, I also have a family Zoom that takes place every Sunday at 8 o'clock my time, so it's with like my extended family all across the states, and I usually join in, so I'm planning on doing that as well. But other than that, like, those aren't going to take up a huge amount of time, and it's currently 9:30, so I've got a lot of time to read today. But I think first, before I do anything else, I'm going to take a shower, because I didn't take one last night because I was planning on running, and then that didn't happen, and I feel kind of gross.
Well, today's kind of taking a turn for the meh. The person who I was supposed to have the meet and greet with, Denver's potential adopter, just didn't show up to the meeting, so that's kind of sad. I hope it's just a miscommunication and not that they don't want to adopt Denver anymore, but that's too bad. I mean, she's on the floor over there in like a little rabbit puff. So she was there to show, but the person just didn't show up, so that's kind of annoying. Also, I have a headache. I don't really know why, just like right here. Maybe it's a combination of having to sit there for 15 minutes and having the person not show up, and then also having to read this book, because I mean, it's not like I'm being tortured or something while reading this, but it's not a great book. It's a surprise if a chapter goes by and there's not some sort of shootout or fight or something dramatic happening, and our main guy, Dan Track, is basically like a Mary Sue character. He, right with the last thing I read actually before I was about to go onto the meeting that didn't happen, was he's about to make a phone call and he picks up the phone and the line is, he always wound up memorizing phone numbers even when he didn't try. He hadn't tried with this one. Just like things like that where it's like, oh yeah, he's really good at this or he's really good at this. Most of the characters, I don't understand any of their motivations. Like our bad guy, his name is Johannes Krieger. He's a German who is apparently the kill-hard leader of a die-hard Nazi like underground group. He wants to steal these nuclear warheads, which at this point in the book he's just successfully done. But I have no idea like what his motivations are, why he's decided that this is the path he's going to take, and Dan Track just happens to be in the right place at the right time. Like, they take the nuclear warheads from these huge trucks that are sort of disguised to look like they're carrying other things, and they just happen to be right by Dan Track's house in New Mexico when that happens. Like, gosh darn it. Isn't that convenient? And then one of the truck drivers turns out to be Dan Track's nephew. This is an action book. This is for people who want to read about crazy action scenes. They don't want a ton of background on the characters. They just want a little bit of plot and a lot of action, which, I mean, that's not really what I'm looking for, and that's fine, because like this whole point is it's a challenge. Like, I didn't think this was going to be a good book when I was reading it, but like, yeah, it's really living up to that expectation at this point. There haven't been any other moments of blatant homophobia or transphobia. I've also come to the conclusion that Dan Track is basically like the author's alter ego if he had led a different life, because our author, Jerry Ahern, loves guns and it loves writing, and so he's been writing gun articles since the 70s, and then is able to now, write these books. And Dan Track, obviously very good with guns. He's a weapons specialist, and he also apparently writes stuff too. So it's basically like our author has created this sort of alter ego for himself. I am now 137 pages into the book. I think I'm going to read to page 160 or so of this today, and then leave the last 60 pages for tomorrow. And then once I get to 116 here, I will pick up Muse for Murder. Maybe that will help the headache go away, read a little bit more of a cozy mystery. We've had our first real instance of Track's genius level IQ coming into play here. So bad guy Krieger is taking these nuclear warheads to be detonated somewhere, and they're trying to figure out where. In the previous scene, Krieger is telling his right-hand man, Julie, that the kid that got away, which is Track's nephew,
would never be able to figure out where they're going to detonate the first bomb. And all he said was, it's a poetic place, the first detonation in the most poetic place. And Track, in the next moment, was able to figure out that it's Chicago from that. And then they go on to say, like, why it's Chicago, but, like, come on, guys. It's much later now. It's actually getting close to 8 o'clock and family Zoom time. But I took a bit of space in the afternoon off. I ended up watching another documentary, actually. I watched the Taylor Swift documentary, Miss Americana. I don't really know why I did, because I'm not like a huge Taylor Swift fan. I like certain songs of hers, but I definitely wasn't one of those people that was really excited when Folklore was announced. However, I have listened to it and I enjoyed it. It's definitely the kind of music that I do enjoy. And so I just felt like watching the documentary because it was only an hour and 25 minutes. So that's what I ended up doing in the afternoon. And then I poured myself a glass of wine and started reading again, had some dinner, watched an episode of Queer Eye while I was eating dinner. And I've just been perusing this again. I'm now over 100 pages in, and it is definitely still very much a book for cat people. It's a big theme, and it's a little much, in my opinion. I like cats, and this is a lot. Earlier, I was actually texting Les about this thing that I was doing, and I said, oh yeah, one of the books is like a hyper masculine action hero kind of book, and then there's one that's a cozy mystery that's a lot about cats. She was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And I was like, no, like, it's called Mew is for Murder. And she was like, oh boy. So yeah. Certain aspects of this are perfectly fine and normal and fun to read about, and other aspects are just a little much. The murder mystery part is starting to build. It's been a little slow. We have a couple of romantic interests that have been introduced, and that's sort of been the focus, but now we seem to be getting back into the actual mystery of it. I think I'm gonna do the Zoom thing with my family, and then I'll probably read a bit more before I go to bed, but the majority of this book is going to be finished tomorrow. This is the last time I'm gonna check in tonight, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good morning. I've completed my run. I was actually feeling really good this morning. I ended up running 8.5 kilometers, which is the longest I've run in a while, so that was really nice. Gives me some good progress on that running challenge that I'm participating in. Today, so far, it's really nice outside, good temperature, not too hot. They are calling for thunderstorms in the afternoon though, so I'm planning on reading outside right now. So I've come to the backyard to set up our camping chairs so I can chill out here and hopefully at least finish Track out here, and then I'll just finish Mew is for Murder after. I mean, that's my goal today, is finish both of the books and let you know what I think. I have now finished Dan Track, the 99. I think it would have been much easier for me to laugh at this book if there hadn't been so much blatant homophobia in it. The last third or so that I just read, there were multiple examples of things that made me feel uncomfortable. The bad guy who I mentioned likes to dress up. He's a master of disguise and he can dress as a man or a woman. This other character asks him, like, well, what about your personal life? Like, do you, like, they couldn't even say it. And he was like, yes, I like women. And then Track and his good guy buddies said some stuff about Jilly Mason, who's the openly gay character, about how he looks gay, because they were trying to track him down, so they were asking people if they'd seen somebody that looks gay. So, like, Yeah, if those bits hadn't been in there, it would have been a lot easier for me to just like laugh and roll my eyes at this book. But there was just, every so often, there was just something that didn't seem right. There are also other outdated terms that are used in here, but I felt like the homophobia was incredibly blatant and on purpose, whereas the other terms just felt more like they were of the time because this was published in the mid-1980s. The women in here are definitely very one-dimensional. I mean, to be fair, all of the characters in this are incredibly one-dimensional. The most detail is saved for the action scenes themselves and like what the characters are doing exactly as they're climbing into a helicopter or jumping down onto a moving train and going inside and shooting up with the bad guys. It's that and the guns are the most detail, and the characters are definitely incredibly one-dimensional. I never would have picked this book up on my own, but it does fit for this little weird mass market paperback challenge. I really just wish that there had been no homophobia and it would have been something I could laugh at a bit more. I'm glad that's over with. It will be donated ASAP. I do not want this sitting in my collection of books. And I will be moving on to finish Muse for Murder. I've been liking that one a lot more, and if it keeps on the same trajectory, I think I might actually end up enjoying it.
Today's classy combo is mini cheese Ritz crackers, which I absolutely love, and they have to be taken away from me sometimes because I just keep eating them. And then this, which I found at the LCBO when I picked up that wine. It's a dry gin and soda with grapefruit, lemon, and thyme, which sounds really awesome. It's from Collective Arts, and they do a lot of really good stuff. I'm a big sour beer fan, and they have some really good sours, and this caught my eye. They always have different artists doing the designs, and I am not a gin person. Les really likes gin, but I'm the kind of person that has to drink it in something like this where it's masked. So this will be paired with my fancy crackers, and hopefully this tastes good. Also, I forgot to mention it earlier, but I did come inside because the rainstorm came, and then it turned into a thunderstorm, and it's been thundering on and off for a little bit. It's been very ASMR-esque. I obviously took a shower during that time, and now we're going to keep going. I am at page 148, so I have like 100 pages left, and the mystery part is like, it's a little weak on the mystery, still very heavy on the going on a date with a guy. Also, cat commentary is still very strong, but I wanted to judge this before I start reading again. Ooh, that smells nice. It's a good thing this is a small can and not a tall can. Success! I have completed Muse for Murder, which means I have reached my goal this weekend of reading these two weird little mass market paperbacks. There is, as I mentioned, a lot of commentary about cats, and it is a bit much at times. There are moments where cat characters in this book bring our main characters to some clues, or in one case save some characters' lives, so it's not really rooted in reality. However, some of the stuff that was discussed in it felt appropriate. It's just, I almost felt like the author wrote this book just so she could write some stuff about cats and like cat behavior and cats in shelters, stuff like that. So a little weird, but not too bad. Still helps if you're a cat person though. As far as the actual plot, it was decent. I did kind of figure out what was going on. I think there was about 70 pages left, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the guy who did it. And this guy seems pretty suspicious too. And what do you know, both of them wound up being pretty suspicious people. So as someone who rarely ever figures out the whodunit part of a mystery, the fact that I figured it out and I still had 70 pages left, and the main character didn't figure it out, even though you follow her the entire time, was a little like, okay. Like, I know you're tired and stressed, but still, these things are literally screaming at you, and you're jumping to conclusions over here, but you can't make this leap, which is a much smaller leap, to figure out that this guy's the bad guy. Like, come on. Even if the plot was kind of there was LGBTQ rep in this. There was discussions about gentrifications in neighborhoods. There was also a really good example of women kind of butting heads at the beginning, and then they have a moment where they actually talk to each other and realize, like, hey, maybe we're actually kind of working towards the same thing, and we're not really as bad as the other one thinks us to be. There was some good stuff woven into here, especially for a book that was published in 2005, I believe? Yeah, 2005, so not bad. I mean, none of the characters have cell phones, and the car that our main character drives only has a tape deck. You can't even play CDs in her car, so that was a little bit of a throwback to a bit of a different era, but it was kind of fun. I liked it. Don't think I would necessarily read another book in this series, but as far as my overall reading experience, it was definitely better than the experience I had with this. And I feel like some people would probably get a kick out of this. It is a funky little mystery. That concludes this reading vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. As always, all of our links are in the down bar. You can go check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.